Well, good evening, everybody. Just before we start, so I don't have a repeat of my silent webinar last week, can you guys just give me an indication by clicking the little hand symbol? Put your hand up just to say that you can hear, the audio is all good, please. And that would be, oh, thank you. Awesome, yay. All right, you can put your hands down. Perfect, all right. All right, well, it's right on 7:30, so let's kick off. Now, you're just going to have to bear with me. I've got a few screens to manage, and I'm going to show a little 1-minute video and just sort of jump between a few things. And I don't have a wingman. It's just all me tonight. And we saw how great I was last week when I didn't even have the sound working. I'm so sorry. All right. So tonight we're going to unpack the 3 pillars of wealth, and they are leverage, compound, and inflation, and greatly misunderstood by a lot of people. We're going to look at the importance of smart financial tactics and an awareness of inflation, because those drivers of wealth will magnify what you do, whether it be good or bad. So let's have a look at that and make sure that you do the right thing. Before we get started in the actual content, I just want to introduce Kevin Young for the benefit of those who don't know who Kevin is. Millionaire by 27. He'd set a goal to become a millionaire in real estate at the age of 8. Could you believe it? So he boasts over 50 years of property investment experience, and not just investment experience, but he's established a club that has created over 5,000 millionaires to date, and plenty of other success stories. They're just the ones that have created $1 million worth of property club investment property equity. So Property Club membership is free, gives you personalized mentorship, access to educational resources and so forth, such as tonight's webinar, live workshops, etc. So I really do encourage you to leverage from Kevin's proven experience, his tax-effective retirement strategy. And we're not going to be covering what that strategy is tonight. We're going to look at the drivers of wealth. Whoa. But that's something that you should learn. I've been in the property game for over 25 years. I actually trained under Kevin. I founded my own business back in 2002 with an emphasis on the strategic need of investors through education and personal guidance. I'm the author of a book called The Essential Guide of Smart Property Investment. And I promote teaching real estate investment as a business. So you're not a doctor who's just buying an investment property or 3 on the side. You're not an Uber driver who's buying investment properties on the side. You're not a brain surgeon buying investment property on the side. You're a business owner, excuse me, you're a business owner in real estate investing, and you're creating the income that you need to grow your business as an Uber driver or a brain surgeon or a doctor or whatever the case may be. You see, if you build a property portfolio, it will sustain you long after you stop working. But I don't care how great the job is, how impressive the career is. When you stop working, they stop paying. So it's not a sustainable solution. I love to eliminate the obstacles that prevent people from investing and empowering them to make informed decisions, because I'm just silly enough to think if you understand what to do, no, first of all, if you understand why to do it, Like, what are the benefits? Why should you do it? And then you understand how to go about it safely and responsibly. You will invest in property. You don't need to be sold to. Now, that is assuming that the lenders will give you the funds, that you have the borrowing capacity. So I'm back working with the Property Club and Kevin to help restore it to its former glory before the vicious, malicious attack from the ABC, which was adjudicated in court and won by Kevin last year, and the ABC lost. Tonight's webinar is for educational and entertainment purposes only. It's not financial advice that I'm sharing. Property Club does strive to give good, solid, educational content and to mentor our members and empower them to make their own informed, wise decisions. We don't make decisions for you. We give you the content so that you can make a fully informed decision. Because if you don't have all the facts, then the decision you make is going to be slanted toward what you think is correct. So let's get into the 3 drivers of wealth. It's really important to be cognizant with the potential benefits and risks of them: leverage, compound, and inflation. Now, your investment decisions, especially in tough economic times, have a more profound impact on your future than you probably realize. These drivers of wealth are very real and very powerful, and it's up to you to comprehend, grasp, and utilize them. I hope you do. I also believe in the sleep at night factor. You see, you and I store whatever wealth we have, whether you've got a lot or a little bit, you store it somewhere. It may be cash in the bank. It may be shares. It may be in your superannuation and probably in the stock market if that's the case. You may own real estate. You may have other forms of investment. But whatever it is, you have to store your wealth somewhere. It can be precious metals, it can be digital assets, but you can't just leave it floating in the air. It's got to be stored in an asset. Now, my personal preference and my strong recommendation, but not financial advice, is that you store your wealth in hard assets, tangible assets, things that you can physically touch and see. And of course, real estate heads that up. And if we go to residential real estate, where we mitigate risk so much more when we look at residential real estate, because everybody has to have a place to go home to, a roof over their head. It doesn't matter whether the economy is going great or the economy is going terribly. People still need a place to live in. Now, maybe the executive homes aren't the best to invest in, but if you stick to the median price bracket in capital cities where you've got great infrastructure, where there's investment, schools, hospitals, roads, etc., it's pretty hard to go wrong. My strong recommendation is that you learn to navigate whatever investment space you're in. And if you've chosen an asset class that's more risky and more volatile, such as the stock market, and some people might argue and say stock market's no riskier than real estate. Well, I would argue that a promissory note from a corporation that promises to honor that promissory note while ever they're solvent is more risk than physical bricks and mortar on a block of land. That's just my opinion. Ansett Airlines was an incredible company to invest in while Ansett was afloat. So was FAI Life Insurance. And when the stock market has a hiccup, there are certain organizations that go to the wall. And so you and I need to take responsibility for where we store our wealth and make sure that we can navigate the good times and the bad, because it's not if, it's when the bad times come, and give yourself the sleep at night factor. So invest with confidence in the face of any prevailing wind, storm, or condition is possible. And we need to do it for two reasons. It's to preserve what we've already achieved thus far. We don't want a coming storm to eradicate or erode our success today. But also we want to continue to make forward progress, and storms are the best opportunity to do it. Now, I know a storm is scary, but I'd be scared if I had to rewire the electrics of my home. I'd be scared because I'd probably get zapped, electrocuted. I'm not an electrician. Risk is commensurate with knowledge and experience, and that's why there's safety in the club, because it's members helping members, investors who have gone before you, that have done it all ahead of you, and have seen the 101 little 1%ers that could go wrong, and will protect you from making those mistakes. Hiding from a storm isn't the solution. Inflation, as we're going to learn tonight, is one of the most powerful tools for building wealth. So when inflation is running rampant and the Reserve Bank is raising interest rates, that's a storm that a lot of people hide from, not me. And I'll tell you why as we go on. When you think it can't be done, I want you to think of the Sydney to Hobart yacht race. Every year on Boxing Day, the 26th of December, yachts line up in Sydney Harbour. And about 4 days later, the winners arrive, or they all arrive, over the ensuing days, in Hobart Harbour. And what's funny is that they leave Sydney Harbour and head for Hobart Harbour every year. Now, sometimes the wind is behind them, and sometimes the wind is against them. Sometimes the wind is at the side of them. Sometimes the seas are rough, like me with my computer. Sometimes the seas are rough, and sometimes the seas aren't so rough. So why is it that they're not tossed and scattered and just thrown all over the sea? Why is it that they actually leave Sydney and arrive in Hobart, given that the conditions differ? And the answer is they are professionals who have learned to set their sails to harness whatever wind is blowing in whatever direction it is blowing to catapult them forward on their journey, and you can too. So let's move on. The pessimist will complain about the wind. The optimist will expect it to soon change. But it's only the leader who will set his or her sails to continue successfully on their journey. So what is your starting point? I mean, it is what it is. Your financial position, your savings, your income, your expenditure. I mean, it is what it is. And every journey starts with a recognition and a realization of where we are today, and then strategically working out how to move forward. Now, for anybody who's under the age of 50, you probably don't know what a street directory is, or you might have heard of them, but you don't really ever have any, maybe under 40, I don't know. But I spent many years navigating my way around capital cities with a street directory in my lap, having to flick pages and work out where I was going. And whenever we had to start, we always had to start with, find out our address, where we are in the street directory, and then work out where we needed to go. And it was a really complicated, convoluting process, because you might have to actually link up with 12 pages. And, you link up in obscure places. But anyway, we did it. We worked it out. That's what you and I need to do with our financial journey. Now, if you look at this chart in front of you, you will get an idea of the escalating cost of living and how much it's going to cost you to live in 2023, which is now 2033, and then 2053. But this chart is wrong, because it assumed that we were going to be in a low inflationary period. Now, we could have changed it, updated the figures to show higher inflation, but hey, what's the point? Let's just leave it, be conservative, and show you that even with low inflation, you really need to do something. You really need to do something. We all do. Now, this is where I said I need you to be very patient with me, because I am about to flick to another screen. Oh my goodness, you haven't seen anything I've shown. There's always something I do wrong, isn't there? Okay, here we go. Wow. I'm hopeless driving these things on my own. I love talking to people. I love helping people. I just hate all the technology. That's Kevin. That's me. This was the webinar for educational purposes only. This is being cognizant with the potential risks and benefits of the drivers of wealth. Reminding you of the sleep at night factor. It's probably good to have a little recap halfway through. We're nearly done. Investing with confidence in the face of any prevailing condition, just as we know that the Sydney to Hobart yacht race participants do each year. The leader will set his or her sails to continue on their journey, doesn't matter which way the wind is blowing. Here's the cost of living with low inflation. And now we've caught up. Okay, so bear with me, and I'm going to play a 1-minute video. Let's see if I can do this.
Overwhelmed by the increasing cost of living?
Okay, let me see if we get this right now.
Overwhelmed by the increasing cost of living? Worried about your future retirement? Your road to wealth starts here with Property Club. Kevin Young established Property Club in 1994 with a passion to help everyday Australians build a property portfolio to help achieve their financial freedom. Property Club is exactly that, a club where members share their valuable insight on how to become successful in property investing. With the help of our highly trained branch managers, we work tirelessly to help you achieve your financial goals through our innovative property acquisition system. Property Club has created over 5,000 property millionaires, and we're committed to supporting and educating the next generation of successful property investors. With free membership, there's no excuses. Join the Property Club community today and discover how you can unlock the secrets of wealth through property investments.
Yay, I hope you guys saw all of that and could hear the sound okay.
Overwhelmed by the increasing cost of living?
All right, so let's continue. I think I'm doing it right. I hope so. We're going to look at the first driver of wealth, which is leverage. And as you can see, a picture describes 1,000 words. And if you had to move that boulder, or if you had to dig a big tree with a complicated root system in the ground out of the dirt, you would need a lever and a fulcrum. You'd need something to give you some leverage so that you could push down, you could put effort on the end of that handle and move an object that was far beyond your capacity to move. Now, if you're opening a can of paint with a screwdriver, we've all done it. You know what I'm talking about. You try to open that can of paint with your fingernails, it's not going to happen. If you try to open a can of paint with a screwdriver with a little stubby handle, it's going to be really difficult too. So the longer the lever, the more the leverage you can have. The same effort gets put on the lever, but the longer the lever gives you the more leverage. Same, you can see that with the nail. Now, when we lever something, we are creating an ability to lift and create more than was otherwise possible. So in the world of investing, if you're investing, leveraging into some dodgy asset, and I don't mean dodgy in the sense of, scam, but I just mean something that's high risk, such as Ansett Airline shares. It is high risk to invest in something that is not a hard asset, in my opinion. If you don't hold it, you don't own it. Someone else owns it, and while ever they're solvent, you're okay. But if they're not solvent, you are not okay. So imagine leveraging into, back in the old days where people were borrowing against their mortgage and leveraging into ostrich farms, or leveraging into these weird, wonderful, so-called tax effective strategies that all got knocked on the head by the ATO. I mean, people lost the investment, but were left with the debt. They were left with the leveraged debt. So I do not promote leveraging for the sake of leveraging. You need to understand the drivers of wealth and make them work for you. And that's why I would only recommend residential real estate, or if you don't want to do that, some sort of physical hard asset. So how does leverage apply to real estate? Well, look, once again, I just want to paint a little picture which will save me 150,000 words. Every one of us has ridden a push bike up a hill where it's, and you get off and you end up pushing the bike. Meanwhile, some, hardcore push bike fanatic with his, lycra gear on and his helmet and all his flash stuff, comes riding up beside you, doesn't need to get off the bike, and just goes, just pedals up the side of you and just keeps going up the hill. And these guys will ride from, one city to another city, couple of thousand kilometers. I got a friend who used to ride from the Blue Mountains to somewhere. I think it was Sydney to the Blue Mountains or something. I don't know. There was another one, Coffs Harbour to somewhere. I used to get tired thinking about it. But you see, if you have gears, those gears will allow you to conquer a hill with a lot less energy exertion than you would otherwise need. So the analogy is, the hill is the size of your real estate portfolio. And how much of a real estate portfolio you can manage is not, I repeat, it is not solely dependent upon how much you earn at work. It's dependent upon leverage and how much you are able to gear, borrow, so that what you have becomes a deposit. You use a small amount and leverage a bigger asset. The bigger asset might be a $750,000 4-bedroom home, but you leveraged into it by taking $200,000 out of the stock market and putting it into real estate. You go, I don't have 200,000 in the stock market. That's okay. You probably do though, in super, between you and your partner. And if you did set up a self-managed super fund, you can have up to 4 members. So you can have 4 people, all with just a small $50,000 balance. And collectively, there's 200,000. That'll get you into a great house. He's a friend, the son of a friend, a client. The son of a friend became a client, and he's now become a friend. And he and his wife are only, I think, 32 or 33. They own 4 properties, and they're currently buying one in their super fund. When I met him, he was 16, so half his life ago. His dad brought him to a meeting that I did in Melbourne. At the end of the meeting, he said, Nick, come and meet Daniel. This is Daniel. One day, Daniel's going to buy property through you. And Daniel's this, late teen, school-age kid. So I said, great, Daniel, I put you on my mailing list. Tell me when you're ready. Years later, I got an email from Daniel. Been reading your emails, love all the stuff. I'm ready. So Daniel is now purchasing with his wife in super. They're only in their very, very young 30s, but they've got 340,000 in super. Do you know why they have 340,000 in super? Because about 2 years ago, I showed them what was possible with super. And they went all out, all out. They put in their concessional tax contributions right up to the allowable amount. They put in their non-concessional tax contributions and went back and caught up for the last 2 or 3 years that they could have been putting it in but hadn't, and drained their savings and dumped it into super. No, I'm not telling you to do that. I'm not telling anyone to do anything. I'm just telling you what some people do. So why would a young guy do that? Well, the answer is simple. He's got a strategy where he and his wife are madly, when I say madly, responsibly, but madly for, people at their age, buying investment properties in their own name and radically reducing their tax obligation, with a tenant and the tax man are covering the cost of their real estate. Now in super, he wants to also leverage, because he knows that you can't save to buy a house because of inflation. Inflation means that as fast as you save, you're going backwards, right? Because the house is going up in value more than you can save. Well, Daniel and his wife realize that just as you can't save to buy a house, you can't save for retirement. No matter how quickly you're putting into your savings for retirement, inflation is diminishing what you've got. So they made the decision that it was best to leverage their super. So they worked incredibly hard to get 340,000 into super to leverage. And I'm telling you, that gives them some incredible choices. So this is what they're doing. The hill to retirement for most people is like that. Trying to ever get to the point where you've got enough for retirement, it's just such a big ask. It's so hard. These guys are going, they're gearing, right? They're gearing. That's what leverage is. Number 2, compound. What is compound? Well, it was Albert Einstein who talked about the power of compound growth. I think he said it was the 8th wonder of the world. Well, we're not going to call it the 8th wonder of the world, but we are going to call it the second driver of wealth. Compound. Now there's addition and there's multiplication. Yeah, you can add to your super, you can add to your savings, or you can multiply. It's so good to multiply. If I gave you 1 cent on the 1st of the month, and every day I gave you another cent, on the 31st of the month, you'd have 31 cents. It's called addition. But if I multiply it, 1 becomes 2, becomes 4 cents, becomes 8, 16, 32 cents, 64, $1.28, $2.56, $5.12, and $10.14. Whoa, taking a long time, isn't it? But it's still better than 31 cents. Let's have a look at the power of compounding. On day 1, you have a cent. Let's say you invest 1 cent on day 1. And instead of investing another cent on day 2 and another cent on day 3 and another cent on day 4, you leverage and you start to take advantage of compounding, and your 1 cent is doubled, becomes 2, and it's doubled, becomes 4. Look at the 10th day. You've only got $5.12. So when you invested on day 1, were you investing to get a return on day 2 or on day 10? If it was day 10, you'd be pretty happy. But what if you didn't sell? your investment property, because this is the analogy, what if you hung on to it and you followed Kevin Young's retirement strategy? Look at the difference between day 10 and day 20. You've now got $5,243 almost, just on that day alone. That's not cumulative, that is just that day alone. And on day 30, you have $5.369 almost $1 million. So if we double it once more, you've now got $10.75 million. $10.75 million. That's compounding, doubling 1 cent. Now, I'm not going to suggest that your property is going to double every day or double every year, but there will be doubling cycles. And the more doubling cycles you enjoy in your window, your time frame window, the greater the wealth you're going to walk into retirement with. So when is the best time to invest? Well, let's go back to this. If you delay your investment by 1 day, what does it cost you? Well, day 30 actually becomes day 29. So it's cost you $2.684.355 million. $2,684,353. That's what it cost you to procrastinate by 1 day. And you go, but I thought it was only costing me 1 cent. Yeah, but we're not investing for the front end, we're investing for the back end. So the earlier you start, the wealthier you become by a country mile. So is the true cost of procrastination over 31 days 1 cent or 10 million? It's 10 million. Your investment time window is what it is. We're all given about 4 decades to go to work, earn a living. We can earn more, we can earn less, we can work harder, we can work less. We can do 3 jobs like Kevin when he first left school, or we can go, bugger that, I want to do 1 job and go and party. So how many of your 40 years that you have available for wealth accumulation were wasted? Now, it's not to put anyone down. I wasted 20, maybe 25. No, it was about 20, because I was 40 when I started investing. I left school at 17 or 18, so it was just a little over 20 years. Now, in my case, it was through ignorance. There's no way you can get those years back. So I had to be creative in the next window. Once the penny dropped, and I mean, Kevin mentored me, so I had an advantage. But once the penny dropped, I was able to say, okay, I need to be creative with the time I've got left. So how many years do you have left to see your 1 cent, which is your deposit, double, metaphorically speaking? What's your investment time window? What's your purchasing cycle? Well, I suppose I should say your investment time window, you can turbocharge it through purchasing cycles, through gearing, and utilizing a second investment strategy being your SMSF to run alongside your personal investment strategy. And if you learn the drivers of wealth and to understand that what most people see as negative storm conditions are actually your best friend, you can really catapult yourself past what other people are doing, because most people buy in a seller's market. When it's a buyer's market, they sit on the sideline like my dog at the moment, because we're doing renovations. And my dog is 15 and he's got serious anxiety. He just shakes all the time. Too many jackhammers and noises and things going on. So that's to me, he's like an investor when the interest rates are going up. Like, I don't blame him for having anxiety. He doesn't know what's going on. It's the same for most people. They have no clue. They turn on the television and they listen to the absolute garbage lies that 7, 9, 10, and 2 will tell you, and Sky and everyone else. And you don't really know what's going on, but you can. Join the Property Club. Membership is free. All right, bear with me. I'm going to launch a poll. I think I'm getting a little bit more used to this now. Just got to get rid of this video that we watched before. Close. Okay, here we go. I'm going to launch a poll. Oh, that's managing poll. Sorry. Here we go. Okay, I'm going to launch this poll just for a minute, or not even a minute, just a few seconds. I'm just going to ask you to reply which of those best describes you. Regarding your investment time window, you have a big time window to fund a great retirement. You are on track and you're following a plan, or you wish you started sooner because your time window is closing. I'll just give you another couple of seconds. We got 90% of you have voted. 100% of you have voted. That's great. So I'll close that poll. I'll share the results. And we see about half of you have said that you wish you started sooner. A third, or a little bit more than a third, are on track, and the balance say that you've still got plenty of time. So congratulations to those who are on track. I know that a number of you are Property Club members, and you've got that unfair, inverted commas, advantage by having been taught from Kevin over a long time. All right. So I'll go back to the presentation. I'm used to using Zoom, and this is a different platform, but I am getting a little bit more used to it after having made a few mistakes and faux pas. Share my screen. What's going on? Hang on, just 2 secs. I'm trying to share my screen. It's paused, but it's not letting me unpause it at the moment. Oh, because I haven't closed the poll. Okay, do I have to? Okay, there we go. Still learning, still learning. Until I actually closed that poll completely, it wouldn't let me share my screen again. You guys are so patient. All right. Property Club will analyze the next emerging growth cities, the locations within those cities, and the properties that have the right mix of cash flow and capital growth potential for your unique situation. Always remaining mindful that there are vastly different tax credits on offer from different properties. They're not all the same. So let's look now at the third and final driver of wealth, and it's inflation. We know that inflation will impact on the cost of living, your food, clothing, and shelter, the basic essentials of life that you need for you and your partner and your children. It drives up the cost of education, transportation, building materials, trade, government, everything. Everything goes up. So it's like this great big fat rat we see in the picture just gobbling up all your assets. So is inflation your friend or your foe? And most people would say they hate inflation. It is definitely a faux. Well, let's just look a little bit further. Let's look at house prices in 1973. The green represents the 1973 dollars, what the value of those properties would be if there had been no inflation. 2020, the red figures, or the red chart, shows the inflated price of the houses. Now, it's not that the houses went up in value, it's that the value of the dollars that are used to buy them is being eroded because it's not backed by anything. It's not backed by gold or silver or anything. It's just money that's printed. And the more they print it, the greater the supply, chasing the same demand. So through COVID, they printed billions and trillions of dollars and pushed it out there into the marketplace. Why do you think there's so much inflation? Because we've got all those dollars chasing the same supply. So if you're selling a car and only one person wants to buy it, you're not going to get as much for your car as if 156,000 people want to buy it. Obviously, that's an extreme example. But with the printing the way they have of money, it's almost like they did that. You know, what used to be the demand from a handful became the demand from a multitude of people. And that happened in the property market because people understood that hard assets were where they needed to park their wealth. So if inflation destroys the value of your savings, is it too hard of a stretch for your imagination to comprehend that it also destroys the value of your debt? If you borrowed 100% of that home in Sydney back in 1973, 100%, all of it, and it was an interest-only loan, and you were able to keep it on an interest-only loan to this very day, would the value of that debt be more or less than it was in 73? Well, the answer is it would be the same, because the face value of the debt would not have changed. If you borrowed 80,000 to buy that house in Sydney in 1973, and you'd only ever paid interest, you would still owe the bank $80,000. But would the $80,000 debt in 73 have freaked you out more or less against that house than owning that house today would with an $80,000 debt? I know that's a ridiculous rhetorical question, but I want you to understand that in times of high inflation, the winners are those in debt, because your debt is destroyed by the impact of inflation. Okay, I am going to share with you now a complimentary interactive form. Now, this form, if you fill it in, if I can do this. Okay. Now, let me just see if I can actually. How do I share this? Aha, handouts, drag and drop. I don't know if this is sharing with you guys, but can you go to the handout section on the sidebar and see if there's a cashback form there? It doesn't seem to let me do anything, so I can only imagine that I'm already sharing it with you. I'll show you what it looks like. It's an interactive form. You can fill it in with your computer and then just save it and email it. And you can email that to inquiries. The email address will come up at the end, but inquiries@propertyclub.com.au. It's really just it just gives us the opportunity to assess your starting position, like where you are today, and what the lenders may be likely to do for you. So are you in a position where the lenders are likely to give you any money? And if so, how much would they give you? In my situation, when I first joined the property club, I came on as a property researcher, and I had a mortgage and I had 4 kids and 3 of them were at a private school, and I was, I didn't have a lot of money. I was struggling. And so I would get invited to their workshops to speak about the properties I had, and I'd have to sit there through, 4/5 of the evening to listen to the other speakers, and then I'd get asked to get up and speak about real estate. And the common thread every time was these people would get up and talk about filling in a form to see what you could do, just getting some enlightenment into your starting position. Every journey starts with where you are today, yada, yada, what I've already said. Well, in my case, I made the mental note that I won't do that. I'm not going to fill in a form because I didn't want the rejection, and I knew that the banks would say no to me, or so I thought, because I experienced how hard it was to struggle with a mortgage with kids at a private school and on one income. And as I said, it wasn't a great income. So I just didn't fill in the form. But I kept getting invited back week after week to different meetings, and I'd fly to Perth, I'd go to Sydney, I'd go to Melbourne, go to Adelaide, whatever. And I don't know how many of these events I turned up to, but it might have been a dozen. If not a dozen, it was close to it. And I finally thought, you know what, I've heard too many testimonies from people surprised at the results they got. So why not? Okay, I'll fill in the form. So I filled in the form, and lo and behold, within about 10 weeks, we were contracted on 2 properties. So we didn't do it straight away. I think we found the first one straight away, and then we found the second one. But how amazing was that? And then my window of opportunity that I talked about earlier, one of the properties we wanted to buy was in, an almost brand new home in Burleigh. You got full depreciation in those days. Now it has to be brand new. But this almost brand new home in Burleigh was $395,000. And I rang my bank manager, who happened to be my friend, and he goes, "No, sorry, you don't qualify." I rang him back and I said, "Hey, listen, why don't I qualify? Is it income or or equity?" He goes, "No, your income's okay. You just don't have enough equity. You've bought too many properties too quickly." I went, "Okay, leave it with me." So then I rang my brother in Sydney and I said, "Hey, Steve, are you looking at doing anything with your equity in the near future?" He goes, "No, what do you mean? You're looking to invest, borrow?" He goes, No, why?" And I said, "Well, I'm trying to buy this house in Burleigh on the Gold Coast, but my bank manager says I don't have enough equity, and I was hoping I could borrow yours." He thought about it for a second and he goes, "Yeah, righto." So we bought the house. I rang my bank manager back and I told him, because my brother's house was, security at the same bank, it was the NAB. And I gave him the address and he typed it in. And he went from telling me in the morning, "No, you don't qualify," to asking me in the afternoon, "How much do you want?" Well, I asked for everything. I asked for the full cost of the property, including deposit. I asked for the stamp duty. I asked for the legal costs. And then I rounded it up by I think it was about 5-7 grand or something, 3. I think it was, a bit closer to 7 grand. So at settlement, we became the owners with the bank, because it wasn't our money, it was the bank's money, right? But we became the owners of this brand new 4-bedroom, en-suited double garage family home in Burleigh on the Gold Coast, not far from the beach, We didn't put 1 cent into it, not a cent. Yet we got change at settlement, money to spend. So there's different things that you can do to shorten your time frame, your window. You know, you can use someone else's equity. If you're a young person wanting to get ahead, and I've helped lots of young people do this, mum and dad wish they could give you a handout, but they can't. They're struggling in retirement themselves. But when they understand they can give you a hand up, that is, use their equity as a deposit so that you can leverage into a property, and you put no financial burden on them, unless you default, of course, and what kid's going to do that to their mum and dad? What mum and dad is going to let their kid borrow equity if they don't know their kid well enough, right? Which is what my brother, he wouldn't have given it to me if he didn't trust me, of course. So you can get into property without using your own money. You can structure it in such a way that it adds income to your cash flow and it doesn't detract. There are so many exciting things you can do to build wealth with real estate. But let me ask you, when's the best time to buy? At the top of the market or at the bottom? Now, what we see here is, right, these are the bottom. Whoa, sorry. This is when the market has sort of bottomed out before it's taken off again, bottomed out. And this is what's happened now with high interest rates. You know, like after COVID, everyone got freaked out for COVID initially, and then the market just took off because people wanted to have their money in safe assets. But then the Reserve Bank went stupid, and I do mean stupid, irresponsibly stupid, and I will stand by those words, raising interest rates. And so they've driven demand down. Now, there's a lot of developers that are committed to building stock. They've got projects in the pipeline that they can't stop, but now the buyers are not there. So this is the time to buy. The time to buy is when most people are scared. And if you're scared, then you need to increase your knowledge. And the Property Club can help you. It's like being the electrician. There is no fear doing the wiring in my new home. But I can't do the wiring because I'm not qualified. So if you're going, Nick, this is all great, but I'm not qualified, you've got a property mentor, a branch manager, and a support network that will help you. So whether it's a freestanding family home, a duplex, a dual income property, right? If you want really good cash flow, there's dual incomes, or a co-living home. These are designed to suit various budgets and rental return needs. Property Club has them, and we can find them and match them perfectly for you. It all starts with knowing where you're at today. What is your starting position and how will the lenders treat you? It comes back to that cashback form. Yes, it's still possible, not for much longer, not for much longer, not for much longer, but it is still possible to get a 4-bedroom family home in Southeast Queensland for under $600,000. But may I please repeat, not for much longer. In the very near future, you won't get a townhouse unless it has a 6 at the front of it. If you missed the webinar that I did at the beginning of May on SMSFs and how you can go about buying property in there and leveraging your super and utilizing the drivers of wealth that we've talked about tonight, please ask your property mentor for a copy of the recording. You can find it on the Property Club's YouTube page. Just go to YouTube and type in Property Club, and there's a few. There's the #1 property guide. I don't know who they are. They're different companies around the world calling themselves Property Club. Find the logo. It's about the 3rd one down, and then look for the link to the SMSF webinar, and please watch it, especially if you're over 40, especially if you and one, two, or three other people could pull together about 200,000. You have no idea how much potential wealth you could create. Now, nothing that I say is financial advice, but I do want you to consider, look into, contemplate, and see if these things are going to work for you, because at the end of the day, when you turn 60, 65, 70, or whenever it is that you hang up your boots and you rely on what it is that you've accumulated to support you in retirement, will you have enough? 97% of people fail at that task. Kevin Young has created in excess of 5,000 millionaires, and he did that before the ABC viciously, maliciously attacked him. So had it not been for that, it would probably be 5,500 or more now. But anyway, 5,000 millionaires is, or more than 5,000 millionaires is incredibly impressive. No one else can boast that, nobody. So I do encourage you to get on board for the sake of your own financial future. Now, I want to respect everybody here tonight. I want to respect where you're at. Some people join just because you wanted to learn some more information. You're not actually in a position to want to do anything or wanting to do anything, but you know, tonight was all about learning. That's okay. There are others who are chomping at the bit and you want to get going. So what we want to do is respect you. Just going to find the poll. Here we go. I'm going to launch this one. And this just simply says that you're keen to act before 2023 is gone, and we're more than halfway into the calendar year now. You say, yes, you want to speak with someone about your next property purchase, whether that is personally or inside of super, but not until 2024. Or no thanks, not in the foreseeable future. So whether you would like someone to speak with you sooner, later, or not at all is completely up to you, but we do want to respect you. And, you know, we don't want to be ringing and saying, how can we help you if you don't want to? So by answering these questions, and 2/3 of you have answered so far, so if the last third could, that would be wonderful. And we will only talk to those people who have indicated that they would like to act. And out of 78%, 43% want to do something in 2023, 36% want to do something next year, and 21% no thanks, not in the foreseeable future. So I really do appreciate that, because the last thing I ever want to be is one of those, I'm just not interested in being a nuisance. Not at all, just not interested. And I don't want to do that any more than you guys want someone contacting you if you're not interested. Okay. So this is in closing. My final tips to you are to chase your dreams, invest in hard, tangible assets. Please do not invest in promissory notes. This is not financial advice. This is just a cry from a friend, a fellow investor who does not want to see you get burned. If you are exposed heavily to anything other than tangible assets, and that includes cash in the bank, please consider your position. Please, please consider your position. Live a full life, be generous to others, give freely, retire in comfort, keep your properties, don't sell your investments in retirement. You might think that that's the only way you can afford watch my SMSF webinar if you're 10, maybe 15 years out from retirement and you think that selling is something that you're going to have to do. And talk to a property mentor, your property mentor, and tell him or her how we can best help you next. There's the inquiries number. Fill in your cashback form. I don't know if you're able to download that. I hope you could. I'll find out tomorrow from the people who understand this platform better than me. And if they say, no, you've got to send it, we'll send it via email separately. Or maybe someone can put into the comment now and tell me whether downloading it worked. So that's it, guys. We're done. So let me see if you've got questions. Okay. Okay. Somebody said at 7:31, could you please confirm if anyone in the audience can hear anything? And if I did this twice with no audio, I would really freak out. I don't think I did. Somebody else said at 7:32, oh, same person, we can't hear a thing. So I hope that was just that person. Jenny at 7:44 said, I can only see the intro slide. And yes, Jenny, I realized that probably about the time you put that message and did a quick recap. Yes is in handouts. I hope that means you could download the handout. Where do we find the where you are now form? The cashback form. The cashback form is in your downloads, Joe. Please attempt to download that, and if you can't, please send us an email to inquiries and ask for the cashback form. We'll send it to you. Amanda said that the download worked. Thank you, Amanda. It's good to know. Okay. Ninad said you could hear, but it was a few minutes after your earlier comment. Phew. I joked and said that last week's webinar was the Charlie Chaplin version. You guys had to just work out the lip read and the read the slides and not listen to anything. And what amazed me was that 50% of the people who came onto the webinar stayed till the end. The form is downloadable and able to be filled in. Perfect. Good. I heard all the way through this time, says Wayne. Well, guys, I'm really happy that that worked, sort of. There's a few little glitches, but we got there. So my email address for anyone who wants it is Nick, N-I-C-K .Lockhart, L-O-C-K-H-A-R-T at propertyclub.com.au. That is nick.lockhart at propertyclub.com.au. You can email me anytime with questions, and I'm more than happy to do anything I can to help you. Even though you've got property mentors and branch managers, I'm here to support and help in any way that I can too. So thanks for listening. I hope you got something out of it. Good night, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. I'm going to go and watch some NRL updates, find out about the state of origin. See you guys.